What if Emboar was in Gen 1 OU? Now, fighting types don't have a good rap in the first generation, and yes, obviously psychics are great and very dangerous, but I do think Emboar is decently promising compared to something like Machamp, which you already might see in a match in RBY, not like super high play, but you'll see people trying to use Machamp because of low kick having a flinch chance, using it on paralyzed teams and trying to do a little bit more damage than a neutral earthquake. So if Machamp can maybe try to make something work, I think Emboar has a better shot. Granted, when it comes to the defenses of the two of them, Machamp is using 65 special, so it's the same special defense as Emboar, and Machamp has 80 defense, which is more. But I'm pretty sure since Machamp has 90 HP and Emboar has 110, Emboar is technically bulkier. At the very least, with HP like that, it's able to use Substitute and not immediately break to a single Nightshade or Seismic Toss, which is already a big deal. But on top of that, there's some other things that Emboar has that Machamp doesn't. For one, it's a little bit faster at 65 speed, but way more importantly, you have actual moves as a mixed attacker. Stab Fire Blast at 100 special is nothing to sneeze at. And yes, your attack isn't as high as Machamp, but at the same time, it's like only a 7-point difference. That's not a big deal, especially when you have mixed attacking options, because along with Fire Blast and Well Kick, which you get stab on, so it's actually worth kind of considering. Hyper Beam is always good. Yeah, Body Slam, Earthquake. I'm pretty sure Heat Crash is a signature, but even if I'm wrong and there's a different fire move as a signature, it doesn't really matter because no matter what, it's just inferior to the Fire Blast, which has a 30% chance to burn. But another special option you have is Thunder Punch, but it's not really that good. You'll see in the Stormy replay, it's only like a third. But still, it's something you can maybe use to catch someone off guard. And with 65 speed, your crit rate is... I don't know if it's between okay or average. It's one of those two. But still, it's not a big deal. Now, the only thing that kind of sucks though for Emboar is the fact that, strangely enough, you kind of have 4 move slot syndrome. Not so much when it comes to Thunder Punch or Body Slam, those you don't care about, but Earthquake is really good damage, and I'd argue a necessity when facing Rhydon. At the same time, Fire Blast is good for Executor and Jinx, as well as just burning Snorlax and maybe Tauros if you're lucky. Hyper Beam is good, but Low Kick. Low kick, low kick, low kick. Everyone likes seeing that super effective when you hit something in RBY. Doesn't matter if it's with a pin missile on a psychic type or a weak fighting move on a normal type. Granted, in RBY, there's that flinch chance like I said. And for something like Chansey, you're actually faster than. So outspeeding Chansey and then threatening a flinch or an Oko with a crit, that's actually really good. So good that maybe you don't bother with Substitute in the first place. Maybe you're better off just going for Earthquake. And then with this set, Chansey probably always needs to switch out, because either it gets flinched with Low Kick, or it can potentially die to a crit. It always has the chance of, not getting flinched and surviving. And, paralyzing. But I'm not sure if you want to risk it. So this might be the best moveset here, even though Emboar can absolutely take advantage of Substitute. So honestly, I don't know what to feel about him. I figured he'd be kind of mid, but I honestly think this is pretty promising. More promising than Machamp, which has already been tested with. So maybe just maybe, it actually could be pretty decent on the viability. Now, I'm not gonna go too overboard. I'm not gonna try to make the claim that this thing would be an OU proper. But maybe it might just have enough to survive in underused. We already have Ninetales in underused now. And with Earthquake, you can threaten some, some things like, let's say, Electrode. With Fire Blast, that's just really good stab. Low Kick can maybe be used on normals, but... Or actually, I guess they're faster than you. I guess Dodrio is a big problem. Same with Kadabra and probably Dugtrio. I actually don't know where Emboar would be. Maybe the best bet is to say NUBL? Because there's already good fire types. And I guess they would technically resist Emboar's low kick, such as like Charizard and Moltres. Okay, so maybe it's fine in NU. Honestly, please just let me know what you think about Emboar and what tier you think it would be in. Because I think it's kind of all over the place. It might be like how Golem used to be before Golem stayed in underuse, where it's usable in literally every single tier. If that's the case, I think that's pretty cool. Emboar has always been outshined by Blaziken and Infernape, and it would be nice to have it kind of stand on its own for once. One thing I will say, and I'm sure Bruscato will correct me if I'm wrong, or at the very least elaborate in the comments, but I think Emboar could be pretty good in Gen 2. Because Gen 2, a bulky generation, where, Snorlax is pretty good. I think Curse Emboar, I could see Curse Emboar cooking. I could be wrong, but it could be interesting. But enough of that, let's get on to the replays. And before I do, two things I want to say. One, they're going to be in a different order than they normally are. Normally, I do the replays with the big three, and then I just go in alphabetical order. My computer crashed halfway through making the replays when I was almost done making the video. Half of the replays survived, but I had to remake half of them. So we're not going to be ending like Zapdos like we normally do. But as we get to this and seeing Tauros, I'd like to remind you all to please subscribe and like the video. It helps out a lot. Now here we have Emboar going for Fire Blast. Oh my gosh, I just O-code. Wow. I knew... I knew Fire Blast would be strong, but I didn't think it'd be that strong. I was just hoping for a burn. Well, let's see how it goes if someone else gets a crit. Does a critical Earthquake annihilate Emboar? Surprisingly, no. And Fire Blast still does half. Like, it's about a damage range, but at the same time, if you burn Tauros, it's just done for. So overall, I'm gonna say this is a pretty even fight. Granted, Tauros probably wins most of the time, but look at that. Like, if the Tauros if it's at half health and is burned, do you really think it's gonna... you think it's gonna, like, win anything? Of course not. Tauros needs to fear Emboar, because it'll probably win, but not without a serious wound. Assuming Fire Blast doesn't miss. Next up, we got Snorlax. And, yeah, unfortunately, Fire Blast doesn't always burn. But Snorlax absolutely needs to respect it. And I was originally going to try to go for Low Kick, but you know what's also good? Hyper Beam. And I guess this is a benefit to being faster than Snorlax. You have more opportunities to fish for the burn. And unlike Tauros, since Snorlax is so slow, you don't have to worry as much for crits. So yeah, that's honestly, I'd still probably call it a quick either way. But you might be able to argue it being a good matchup. And there's Chansey, where I'm going to say it's great. Now granted, in this replay, you're going to see Emboar have some pretty bad paralysis luck. But at that point, it's not really because of anything that Chansey merits. It's just because Gen 1 has, pretty bad luck when it comes to stuff like that. Sometimes you get paralyzed and you just aren't able to move whatsoever. It's not much I can do about that. Luckily, Emboar got lucky. Or lucky with an asterisk. Look at its HP and status. But hey, a critical low kick basically deletes Chansey. That's one of the best Pokemon in the game. That's pretty good. Try to focus on that and not it being absolutely dominated by Alakazam. I will say, however, that obviously Emboar would never face a healthy Alakazam. And just like with Rhydon, and especially Machamp, Emboar would be used on teams where basically everything is already almost paralyzed. So with that, Emboar with Fire Blast, Earthquake, Hyper Beam, that's a significantly bigger threat towards a paralyzed Alakazam. Also, before anyone asks, I tried looking, and I'm pretty sure for Emboar's Gen 5 moveset, it doesn't have Fire Spin, but even if it did, I probably wouldn't use it. Next up, we have Slowbro. Tried cooking with Thunder Punch here, but yeah, no, it's not really that good. I'm pretty sure Slowbro just kind of dominates unless you get lucky with a crit. Let's just move on. Weird seeing Starmie in the middle, but this is just how it went. I put Psychic on this moveset, but then I quickly realized that it didn't need it. Starmie, even without super effective coverage, always wins against Emboar. Paralysis and Recover and being bulky, it's just too much for the pig to handle. So Starmie pretty comfortably takes this, regardless of the set. But the fact that some sets beat Emboar way harder than others, it's just a little cherry on top. Cherry on top. Sorry, I can't talk. Speaking of not talking, yeah. Normally, I would make a replay where, like, someone doesn't get a crit. But do I even need to bother? Like, do I need to say that Zapdos can get burned, maybe, if it gets hit by Emboar's Fire Blast? Guess what? A crit would ignore the attack drop. So, I decided, no, just let the crit happen. I'm pretty sure Zapdos dominates anyways. And so does Cloyster. Now, the original replay was kind of funny, because in the original replay, Cloyster got a crit with Clamp, just barely didn't kill, missed another Clamp, and then Emboar O-code with Fire Blast. As funny as that is, it's not very realistic. Like, do not count on that happening. I feel way more confident just calling this a unwinnable matchup for Emboar. But here's one that's significantly more winnable. It's not free. You can't OHKO Executor, nor do you have Fire Spin to put it in range. But still, you hit pretty hard. Executor is more scared of you since you're faster. And even if you get a special drop, you can just go for Hyper Beam. So that's a positive, I would say. More than I can say for Machamp. Gengar two-shots you, but you two-shot them in return. So it really just comes down to who gets a crit first. It'll probably be Gengar, but at the very least, there's also other sets. If it's only Thunderbolt and Nightshade, you kind of just eat it alive. So it could be worse. Now, next off is Jolteon. You don't see it here because Jolteon just kind of gets, like, demolished. And also a 1 to 256 glitch. But just letting you know right now, Thunderbolt's only a 3-hit KO on Emboar. So Emboar takes the matchup pretty comfortably without any paralysis or crit hacks. Second to last, strangely enough, is Jinx. And as much as I want to put this in a could go either way, like with Gengar, unfortunately no. Even without the special drop, I'm pretty sure Fire Blast just barely doesn't kill. So maybe this should be in could go either way. But I feel like bad matchup just makes more sense, in my opinion. Because with Gengar, you're hitting it with Earthquake. But if Emboar gets a special drop, it's way more significant because you're using Fire Blast to kill Jinx. Now last, and kinda least, is Rhydon. Now in the original replays, I had 3 of these because I just ended up getting a lot of interesting outcomes because not once in the replays I made did Emboar ever burn Rhydon. But I had one where Emboar got a crit on Fire Blast, which did half of Rhydon's health. I did one where Fire Blast had a roll, but then a critical Earthquake killed it. So I feel like this is maybe I could go either way. Because if you do get the burn, Earthquake isn't as bad. Because Rhydon has a little special, Fire Blast isn't even doing bad damage to begin with. And most importantly, Earthquake yourself does a lot of damage. And with a crit, it's doing a crap ton to Rhydon. So do I want to change any of these? I guess you can maybe make an argument for Snorlax being good and Jinx being a could go either way. And you can also argue Zam being bad, since you at least do much better if it's paralyzed. I don't know. Like, this one I'm very... Like, I might be being biased here, but I feel like I have decent arguments for why these Pokemon will be in the tiers that they are. But let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you think Emboar would be good? Do you think it's at least going to be better if it gets a Mega Evolution? Because it's probably going to get one in Legends EA. Let me know in the comments below. But until next time, this is Groundback, and I look forward to hearing from you.